Well, we're live now.
Oh, we are.
So sit up straight and put a smile on.
Always got a smile on. There we are. There we are.
So
I'm more comfortable now.
you're used to the radio where people can't see you.
Yes, yeah. So you can go there to shave, and you can be a little bit scruffy, but you still got to be on the ball though.
So I've got a question for you.
Go on then.
Have you ever done a radio program in your pajamas?
No, but I've done one bare chested with the shirt off. It was so hot in the studio that I've taken the top off.
Oh my God. Well, it's lovely to be here today, and this is going out on my Facebook page, my Facebook group, and it'll go onto YouTube as well. And I wanted to touch base with, well, you don't like that touch base thing, do you?
I hate that phrase. I think it's awful. The thought of anyone touching my base it just makes me cringe.
Well, I'm afraid I don't know what else to say. Then
it's up there with it's up there with those sort of phrases like think outside the box.
Oh, it's a bit woo-woo.
Yeah, a bit yuppie still.
So I wanted to connect. Would you say
that'll
that?
do.
Oh,
that'll do. You just wanted someone to talk to because you're lonely.
And I don't know how this is going to go, because it'll probably go completely off cuff, because you're very funny and very witty.
I can be, but my check hasn't arrived yet, so I don't know how much you're paying me.
Oh yeah, don't say too many words, because I'm supposed to be paying you by word, aren't I?
Oh yeah, I'll be a millionaire then. I do tend to get verbal diarrhea.
How many words would you say you've spoken over the last year?
I have no idea, but on average, you're talking 2 words a second.
Crikey! Oh,
except, I mean, even my mouth's grateful when I go to sleep.
Even your mouth's what? Straight?
Grateful when I go to sleep.
So anyway, this is John from Dove Radio, and I met John when I moved up to sunny Ashbourne, which was 5 years ago.
And when you got out of prison.
I got out of prison, yeah, just down the road from Sudbury. And I moved further north, and I came on to Ashbourne Radio, and you were on there, weren't you? And I knew from your dulcet tones that we'd have a few things in common. Yeah,
I mean, it's that giveaway accent, isn't it? That you try and get. Well, no, you don't try and hide it, but it's too noticeable. But sometimes when you hear yourself come back, that's the worst thing, and you think, oh my goodness, I sound like that.
Yeah. So on the basis of that, you then did Ashbourne Radio, and then you moved on to the Dove. But my question to you is all about how to engage in conversation. But how long have you been involved in like the radio?
Since about 78. I started back, as a lot of people do, in hospital radio.
Yeah.
At the Manor Hospital in Walsall, believe it or not.
I was born there.
Yeah. I probably actually one of the shows that I used to do on a Sunday morning was a request show for the maternity ward.
What year was that? 78.
Around 78, 79. Yeah.
I was born by then. You could have been talking to my mom as she was giving birth.
Yeah. But that's how it all started. I'd always had a love of music from people go, when you see people on the X Factor and things like that, and they go, oh, I've been singing since I was like 2, or I was 1.5. Well, I was literally loved music and the radio from the age of about 2 to 3.5, and I apparently I used to stand on a chair with sunglasses on and do Roy Orbison impressions.
With your hairbrush.
Yes, with a hairbrush as well. But I did annoy my mum that much the once that she did put her foot through my plastic guitar.
Oh, I had a similar experience. My guitar, I think, got involved in a row of some description, and I had to go to the guitar, what's he called? Musician, with a crack on my guitar, and I blamed it after that my guitar never worked properly ever since.
But I was annoying as a child. If you probably won't remember it, but people watching might do. Back in I think it was the 70s, there was a thing called a baffle ball.
Okay.
Remember? And it was a clear plastic ball, and inside it were all these different cups numbered from 1 to 9.
Yeah.
And the idea was to swing the ball round and start off at cup number 1 and end up at cup number 9. And I couldn't be bothered with that. I used to sit there rattling it like this. So you got this plastic ball inside a plastic ball, just rattling around. You can imagine the noise.
Yeah.
And that was the sort of thing that I would do as a child. That's why, I was so annoying. So I think the next thing my mum bought me was a record player, so I could sit in the corner and just listen to old 45s.
Oh yeah, do you remember those 45s, 33s, 72s, and whatever else?
72s. That's an interesting speed. I think you mean 78, you muppet.
We had the Pigs, the Three Little Pigs. I remember was our first record. We had nursery rhymes. But anyway, Janet's just said hi to both of us, and she says the best thing that she feels is just to talk to yourself. And Melanie, do you know Melanie Ann Vincent?
Oh yeah, I know Melanie.
She obviously knows us both because she said not putting money on who talks the most. Do we talk a lot?
Well, it must be if it could. I mean, that's quite a. Oh, Vinny there. She's put I think quite a slanderous comment on there.
She has put a laugh sign afterwards. I think it must be because of the where we. I was going to say where we come from, and that would definitely say the accent where we came from.
Yeah, well, Vinny's the old queen of the Zumba.
Okay.
Aren't you, Melanie? Put a thumbs up somewhere if you can. Or she was.
I didn't know that about Melanie.
Yeah.
Queen of the Zumba. I must have a conversation with her next time.
Yeah, but no. So basically, So I'd always had a love of it. So I got involved with hospital radio. So you start off as a ward walker, which is interesting. So you just go and collect the requests for everyone else, and then you work your way up to getting your own show. And I got the book for that, and I ended up being program controller of it. I mean, it was great because we did one or two firsts. We did first stations to do. Walsall Hospital Radio was the first station to do off the ward live broadcasts.
Okay.
We also were the first stations, hospital radio stations, to do split broadcasts. So we did separate programs for the two hospitals in Walsall.
Right.
And we did a couple of outside broadcasts from the Arboretum, if people know Walsall, and also the Saddler Centre as well.
Centre, yeah. Marks and Spencer's used to be there, and then there was a jewellery shop. And there was the ramp, used to go up the ramp, train station was there. And then, I remember that really well. I remember McDonald's coming to town. Yeah,
I mean, and my favourite in there was Drucker's.
Oh, yeah, Drucker's. That was just came into Walsall, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I went from there, because I'd got my full-time job, which was, at that time, a butcher. Because radio is such a fickle and insecure industry, it's not nice at all. But then I started doing some freelance at Beacon in Wolverhampton, and tech opping and things like that. And then that just kept on doing that. I also did a little bit of pirate radio as well.
Oh, is that out at sea?
It was originally, but this was from tower blocks in the middle of Dudley and Birmingham, dodging people from the DTI and other law enforcement agencies.
Didn't the aerials give it away?
It did a little bit, but we used to have ways of cementing those onto the rooftops of the tower blocks just to make it more difficult for the DTI to remove them. And so then when I moved up to East Midlands, I got in with a bunch of lads, and that's when it became more of I always had my full-time job, but that became a paid hobby then. And then obviously eventually the last few years doing it full-time. But it's good because with radio, it's amazing it is, because it goes everywhere with you. It can go in the bathroom, it can go in the car, in the garage, in the garden. So you're always there with people. And that is the best part about it. It's not like a newspaper where you can put it down and it gets, you use it as a coaster, or television. You can't cart that around with you, although saying that, you've got it on your phone now. And so it's all changed as well. So the industry's changed completely. It's gone from every area having its own station to people now networking from London or Manchester. But it's great. It is, because you become part of people's days, and it's amazing. You can say something just off the cuff, silly comments that you don't think anything of, and then you'll suddenly get a text and someone's reacted to it. And then that feeds you on to the next thing, and so forth.
And I can imagine during lockdown, I mean, you've been invaluable to people as far as like communities and just letting people know what shops are open, what's happening. It's a lot more than just the weather these days, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, what we've tried to do on the Dove, and it's only just recently been launched, is try and connect with people locally, like like yourself, about doing makeup in the lockdown and making yourself feel better. I did a nice interview with a lady in Ashbourne about homeschooling and how she was coping with the homeschooling, having a couple of kids and how to juggle that, because she was still working. Her husband was at home, but having to juggle all of that, the normal things, as well as homeschooling. Also focused in on a little bit of recycling as well, which was another important one and went down quite well. Because again, this is one thing that's nice about Ashbourne, because it's a lovely community, is that there's a lady that's collecting crisp packets, bread wrappers, and all these sorts of things, and then they parcel them all up. They get collected by whichever parcel company it is. They go to the recycling plant, then they get money per ton or kilo, and then she gives that then to different local charities all the time.
Seriously, you get money for collecting crisp bags?
Yeah. Tesco's are just starting it now as well.
I'm gonna try.
Yeah. And you work as a part of this recycling company. I think they're called TerraCycle. And whether that's because terror in Spanish is land, isn't it? So whether that means land recycle, I don't know where that comes from. But they work together with all these local organisations, and they as I say, that money that she gets into the local charities.
Wow.
So it's given the opportunity during lockdown to home in on that, local businesses. There's a guy that has got the shoe shop in Ashbourne. He's had to adapt his business to trading online,
which is massive.
So we focused in on that.
It's not just Ashbourne, is it? The Dove.
Oh no, we go to Utoxeter, Burton-on-Trent. Basically, follow the area that we are aiming at is following the River Dove.
Yeah, which is just there for me.
Yeah.
So although I'm in Staffordshire, I've just jumped over the border from Derbyshire to Staffordshire. So would you say I'm in the middle, Elliston?
Yeah, you are a little bit between Ashbourne and Utoxeter, but the thing is, as well, with the internet, you're worldwide. That's the other thing. We've got people listening in Spain, America, South America.
Yeah, and it must be lovely for people who've got friends and family over here that they can hear. Because I know my mom listens to some of the Ashbourne stuff, so she can just hear, especially when we did the, what was the celebration that we did last year and we all got dressed up?
Oh, was it the war celebration?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I couldn't remember what it was called. And she saw all the pictures that obviously were collected in the area. So it was a really good way for her to sort of engage or listen to the radio in the area and see what was happening sort of close to me, which was nice as well. So the biggest thing is in lockdown, obviously, I think a lot of people are obviously going from a situation where it's like, I'll see you next month, I'll see you next month, I'll see you next month. And then before we know where we are, we've gone past a year, haven't we?
Yeah. I noticed today that I apparently a year ago, 16th of March, I posted on all the symptoms on Facebook for COVID.
I saw that.
And I couldn't believe it was a year ago.
A year ago. And I think the biggest thing is like, how do you now pick up the phone to people? I've got it with clients as well. It's like we've had that period of time we've not spoken to each other. And it's like, how do you pick up the phone? How do you communicate with people, but get across that you really do care? I mean, you can't just say like, what's the weather like over there? It's hard to start those conversations, isn't it?
It is, but I mean, hopefully in that interim period, people have kept in touch with people by just a simple text as well. But there's nothing better than the phone call. That's why, again, one of the important features that we did on the Dove this year was with Careline, which is a telephone befriending service.
Yeah, love the Careline, Jane and the team.
Yeah. So they do brilliant work. But it is so important to talk to people. But I think it's also important to be able to listen to people. It's not always about ringing them up and chatting them, and you can. It's easy to do, and automatically you can do it. You say, "Oh, well, how are you getting on? Is it okay out there? Do you need anything?" The next thing you know, you spin it round onto yourself and say, "Oh, well, I've had a right old day," or "It's been great here. I've been in the garden," or whatever.
Yeah.
And suddenly you've taken the focus off whoever you've called, spun it onto yourself. Whereas it's and not only that, it's being able to hear somebody, but it's listening and taking on board what they're telling you as well, and then going back to it, and even that is a strange thing, because if you're having a chat with somebody and they mention something that you've said 5-6 minutes ago, you think, well, at least they were listening.
We used to do it in my management training when I was at work, and we did interview skills techniques, and it was anything from making somebody redundant to employing somebody. It was just that interview, and they taught a skill which I think is quite good to remember, and it was called listening for the key words. So if they happen to say, "Oh, I went to the park and then I walked the dog and then I came back and I went swimming," not that you're going to do all these things now, but perhaps that person's in free flow of talking. And if you interrupt them, they forget what they're saying. So all you need to do is just remember the park, just remember the word park, dog, swimming, right? And they used to say to us, hold it in your hand and hold it in your hand. And then when that person stopped talking, you could then go, "So tell me a bit more about the park," or "You mentioned you went swimming," or "You mentioned the dog." And then that re-engages to that person that you are listening to me, and the conversation just flows then.
Well, yeah, and also you start that bonding then, because they've also, like you just said, they understand that you have been listening for the last 10-15 minutes or whatever, and you get that bit of a bond. Whereas if you didn't do that, they could put the phone down and think, "Oh, that was a nice chat, but what do they remember of me, or were they listening to me, or something?" I've noticed on the radio as well, whether it's because they got less studio guests and working at home now, that they will ask a question, and the person will answer that question, and they'll perhaps expand on that particular subject and mention something, and then the person that's doing the interview will then go even 2 minutes later and ask a question about what they've already included 5 minutes ago in something else they were saying. And I'm sitting there thinking, why did you ask that? They'd already told you that. You should be asking something else. And it is all just down to just that little bit of having to be able to listen to people, which is equally as important as talking to them.
I suppose you can always say, well, the person who talks is the person who's paying for the phone bill. There used to be things like that in years ago when it was like, I'm paying for the call, and you used to have to pay for individual phone calls. It's I'm paying for the call so I can speak. But a lot of phone calls are free now, aren't they? I mean, you've got WhatsApp, Messenger, mobile phones, it's all included, so it's a good thing to do, and it does make a lot of difference. So the main thing was for me was to try and promote people, to reach out to people like Careline do, but to people that you haven't spoken to for a while, to think about obviously how you can help with the loneliness and how chat. But I've printed something off here, which was on the internet. I was just having a look this morning about things, and it was saying how you could check in with people. And it said, smile and wave. So a little bit sort of like when you're walking down the street, you perhaps don't even know the person. You've got a mask on, you can't smile, but you can offer a sort of a friendly, raise your arm or just wave or something, because you just don't know that person walking the dog could be all they do. That's their only thing that they do each day. So just to sort of smile and wave is quite nice, isn't it? I mean, there's so much in a smile, isn't there?
I remember our grandson coming up, and we went over. No, we went over the fields for a walk.
It sounded like it was a.
No, we went over the fields for a walk, and we passed someone and says, "Oh, afternoon, how are you?" Da, da, da. And we've got only about a few yards past, and he said, "Do you know them?" I said, "No."
I get that all the time.
And he went, and he giggled to himself. He giggled to himself. I said, "What's the matter, Jay?" He goes, "Well, you're speaking to someone you don't know."
Yeah.
And you think, right, okay.
And
And that's frightening. And that's frightening.
Yeah.
It really is.
I remember my nan used to do things in which she obviously is probably where I get my witty, funny personality from, doing things, cheeky things. But she used to encourage us as little girls just randomly wave at people in the car. And the challenge was to see if you could get them to wave back.
Oh yeah, I've stood on the motorway bridge doing that as a child. Waving to the lorry drivers and things,
Yeah.
and see if they wave back, or if they hit the horn and things.
And do you remember, I know somebody who had a white Volvo where you've got the little seats at the back that faced backwards. So if you were the driver,
Oh, yeah.
you'd have these two little kids, like, you'd be like, oh, but you just kind of do something else.
Yeah, but it's all that. It's all that can make someone's day. I know someone that works as a volunteer for an organisation, and they had a call from someone, and the call was basically this lady wanted to know what time it was, and it was 6 in the morning. It actually transpired that lady who phoned in to find out what time it was hadn't spoken to anyone for 10 days.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's
frightening.
Yeah, really frightening. It's actually made me go goosey.
Yeah. To think, and that probably isn't it. That's probably not a unique incident either.
Yeah, I mean, Janet's got a good point. She's just mentioned that it's a shame children have been told not to speak to strangers because of society, and I guess that's a really important thing, isn't it? I suppose from a child's point of view, they might sort of like, don't speak to strangers, but then there's that fine line, isn't there?
But then you can reverse the role as an adult, and you're frightened to talk to children, youngsters, women, whatever.
Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it?
Because you all you want is a parent to see that from 10, 15 yards away, and suddenly come over, grab the child by the hand, saying, "What are you doing?" So it's delicate both ways.
It is. It's definitely a hard one to do. The other one is just ask somebody how they are. I mean, I see when I go shopping, and I do see old elderly people do shopping, and I'm sure they do it because they know that they're at risk to go shopping. But for them, it's possibly the only thing they ever do is to go to the shopping, market, supermarket, and what have you. And I just always make and it's in a safe environment, obviously you're there. And I always make a point of like saying, how, if you had a good shop, or it's nice to get out, or is the weather nice? And I just think it's really nice, especially if somebody's elder on their own, to just engage with them, because I'm sure that they must have this kind of like, head down scenario. Don't talk, don't speak, don't look at anybody, because they're scared about the virus as well.
I mean, that is good, because if you're not careful, you can just lose the art of conversation. So when you do go out, you don't talk to people because you don't know what to say to them.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to react if they ask you something either.
No.
And that is so easy. Again, like that, perhaps that lady who phoned in to find out what the time was. If they're sitting there just doing puzzle books all day, shuffling off, making themselves a cup of tea and doing this and doing that and doing the other, and they perhaps have the telly or radio on, but
and
it's so easy.
The worst thing is, John, the news constantly. They sit watching the news, repeat, and they become really like, it's horrific out there. I'm not going out.
Yeah. Come absolutely. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it, with all of this that's going on? I think that to the country, the mental health bill in 3 years' time is going to be absolutely colossal, and across all age groups, as well. There's going to be a right knock-on effect. But it is easy to sit there and you hear one thing on the news about the one vaccine, you hear something about the other one, and then Like now, you could go and think, well, oh, I've had the British vaccine, and then suddenly, oh, hang on, some companies, some countries are boycotting it now. But I've had that one. I've got the second one coming up. Do I go? Don't I go?
And
you sit there
imagine if you're
watching
living on your own.
Yeah,
That's just gonna be. It's just gonna go internal, isn't it?
Yeah, you watch rolling news, and you know. It could absolutely frighten yourself to death. It really
so that's
could.
why we need to listen to Dove Radio.
Well, it is. It's stimulation. It's stimulation.
But how do people? I'll put a little thing on here about. I've put your Facebook page on, but it's slightly different these days, isn't it? How people listen to radio. There's more options.
Well, yeah, I mean, before you had the radio, but it was portable. But you've got apps on your phone. You can log onto the website and listen via your phone. You've got the smart speaker as well. And the thing now as well is, it's interesting is that, again, it's according to what data package you've got. Even if it's not on FM, it's only online or smart speaker. There's still a facility in a lot of new cars now that you can actually go through Bluetooth and listen to your internet radio in the car.
Yeah,
you just got to watch it. You just got to check your data on that. But and again, so that is good as well, because suddenly what is local to Ashbourne, you could, or you Toxeter, or wherever Derbyshire Dales where we cover, but you may be going on a trip down to London, but you don't want to listen to some of the network stations. You want to stay local. Whereas if you were on FM, solely FM, you would be out of the listening area and you lose it. So you've got no choice. But now you could just put the internet on through your car stereo system, and you've got it all the way, and you get very little dropout. So you can stay local where you are, which is good as well. Which is it's a good part about it.
So do you get many listeners calling into the radio? Do you do many things that you interact?
Well, we haven't officially started the programming. That's going to start until middle of May. But we're getting decent feedback on the music that we play.
Yeah.
I've tried to involve people all the way along. So even before we started, I farmed it out to a few people saying, which logo do you prefer?
Got that.
I sent out 3 versions of the logo, and the one that got the most thumbs up is the one that we went with. So it was involving people that way. The website's been the incredible focal point, because that's very, very local across the area, and current as well. The stories that are on there. Some websites you go to, and they're still talking about Christmas and New Year, last Christmas and New Year, whereas ours is updated really, really regularly. It's very current.
So who sits on there and does all that work? Is that you? Are you the person behind the scenes doing it all?
No, I've got someone who does that for us. In fact, there's 3 of us involved. There's someone that looks after all the servers. He's actually in Lanzarote.
No way.
Yeah, and then there's another guy who was also on Ashbourne, Mike Ashley, who looks after the updates of the news and sorts out the music that we've got at the moment. But we speak regularly online, so we can look at where we want to go, how far we've come, what we've done, what we haven't done, what we should be doing. And again, you could quite easily work isolated. So we probably message each other probably 100 times a day, but we always speak at least once a week, because again, it's easy to send messages, emails, texts, or whatever, but sometimes, and I am a bit of a keyboard commando, you can send something.
What does that mean? You do it in like undercover gear?
No, I'm just yeah, camouflage on. But I do go for it with the old keyboard. I can become a bit sort of like frantic, especially when something revs me up. But when you send something that you've typed, you might think it's hilarious, but when it gets to the other end and it's read, it can be totally turned upside down, because you have no idea what frame of mind that person's in at the other end. And that's why it's important that we chat once a week, although we message all the time, and we know what each other's doing. But yeah, it might keeps it all up to date, and that's but the website, as I say, you're talking over and it only launched in November, so but over 40,000 hits a month.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Is good, yeah. It
Yeah.
is really good.
Wow,
And again, that came into its own, particularly with one story that we featured, which was there's a guy that's gone missing from Matlock. It's been about 14 weeks now, and he's still still no idea where he is. But his story alone, in just over a 4-week period, had over 3,000 hits, just views, just on his story, which again helped it get it out there. And there were sightings of him as well, but which have basically they've come to nothing. But and again, I speak with his wife once a week just for any updates, and then if he's been spotted somewhere else in different area, or they think there's a sighting, then I'll also, if I know anybody in that area in the media, I'll point her in that direction so she can speak to them and get coverage.
Yeah, no, it's that's definitely local radio for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we did our Mother's Day thing, didn't we? We did a nice gift with the flower and the card that I did Mother's Day gift, and then you ran a competition, and then you presented that on Mother's Day itself, which was lovely.
Yeah.
So that's exactly. Like, just helping businesses and people. You're just that link, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the lady that won the prize from yourself, she was over the moon with it. And then we had a second prize, and that was just a mixed box. There was some toiletries, some chocolates, some really nice chocolates and things.
I'd like the chocolate one.
And when I turned up with both of those, you'd have thought you're giving them the world, but it was just nice,
to do it.
Yeah, and the same with Valentine's Day. We gave away 2 watches, his and hers watches. Right. And again, that they were really well received. And
so how do they work then? Is there like a question that people have to
wind them up? The watches, you wind them up.
Oh wow! What's he like, people?
No, you just enter. That's the thing.
I'm going to take you back to your disco dancing in Brown Hills if you're not careful.
I can't show my face back in Brown Hills. I get run out of town. But
Janet put on there, it's surprising how many teenagers are lonely as well. It's just there's just some disconnect there, isn't there? There's a lot of charities and local groups. I mean, I'm trying to do my best as well with me free workshops and what have you, and I think it's just reaching out to people and sort of finding those ones. In fact, tonight, guess where I'm talking tonight?
Probably to yourself somewhere in the garage.
Well, I will be, because I'll be on my own in here.
America.
No, I'm talking to the Girl Guides.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So tonight, like a lot of my work now is like, it's not so much a case of booking a hotel or people coming to the studio. So yeah, I was asked by the Girl Guides to come and talk to them. So we're going to do a situation where the girls are going to be sitting next to a computer. Obviously, they're doing all their online weekly meetups online now until they can get back into things. And we're going to do some little pampering treatments. I'm going to talk to them about skincare and talk to them about face shapes. And then we're going to do a bit of face yoga.
Face yoga?
Yeah, it's a bit of this.
Well, that's strange. I worked with a guy when I mentioned back at Beacon in the 80s in Wolverhampton, and before he went live, he always did facial exercises. Because it helps with the flow when you're talking. It's all
we tone our bodies, but we wonder why this gets a bit droopy. And underneath here is all ligaments and muscles and all the rest of it. So we just need to tone it back up again. And it's like, I sell a couple of skincare products. It's all about feeling, looking good. I don't sell anything that's going to basically change you into a different person, because I just don't believe you can possibly do that. But you can do a lot by toning your face. So show people how to do face yoga, because that's going to be really good.
Was it Marlene Dietrich? Was it Marlene Dietrich that used to wear a very, very thin gold chain around here to pull up her chins? And she wore it through her hair.
That's why I wear my hair up. My hair, it's really tight, my hair. And it pulls it back.
Yeah. But I'm sure it was Marlene Dietrich that used to have this very thin gold chain.
Wow. Did she not get like a burn mark?
I don't know, I weren't around then, was I? I mean, it's only something that I read. But going back to what you're on about youngsters, it is staggering, because there was a really heartbreaking story on the news about 4 weeks ago, and this family, the lad was only in his teens, very early teens as well, if he was that old, and they'd been sitting watching television, a family together, having a laugh, this, that, and the other, and he went upstairs, as he would do normally, to go to bed, and committed suicide. And so that comment about the teenagers is right. You just because they're young doesn't mean that they still don't need to be involved, and maybe keeping something inside. And again, probably because when we were young, particularly me, you're always out doing something. But a lot of their communication is done on the old phone. And that, remember what I said earlier about 10 minutes ago, the art of conversation goes. And they may want to speak to you about what's troubling them, but they don't know how to.
They can't say, can they?
No.
They can't express it.
No.
So it's hobbies are really good, aren't they? I think they're great ways of basically engaging with people, where you don't really have to talk about things. You can just, talk about something that you've got something in common, and then from that you build a relationship that you might open up to somebody. So I think hobbies and stuff like that are good, and there's quite a few things that have started online, isn't there? With you should do that on the radio. You should promote the local. You probably do already promote the local sort of like gatherings.
Well, we will do, but at the moment they can't gather, can they?
No.
Other than online, they can digitally. But obviously, our big USP will be that local thing, like the arts festival in Ashbourne, and the events they have over in New Toxeter at the racecourse, and of course the Shroud Tide football match. That is the big one. That sadly, obviously, is cancelled this year. Existing media in the area didn't cover it at all well last year, which was sad, because it's always been a key part of what we used to do at Ashbourne Radio. And the main aim of the Dove really is, from year one, is to be able to raise the funds to be able to put the coverage, pay for an FM license for the 2 days, so we can broadcast the Shroud Tide football like we used to.
Well, you've proven from years of past how much you've covered it and stuff. So you're pretty, it's not a question of we will. It's like I have. So it makes sense. Well, believe it or not, our half an hour has flown by.
Oh, right, okay.
People say it's too long. So what I wanted to know was, did you get your hair cut? Because the last conversation I had to you was you were getting your hair cut. I have to say, it's very good. So does Dee always cut your hair? Well,
no, not normally. It's only when the lockdown.
So will you keep with Dee cutting it, or will you go back to the barber?
No, I'll go back to the barbers.
See, that's the question. So Vince keeps trimming his in the mirror, and he says, one of these days I'm going to get me ear.
It's just because you're doing everything backwards.
This is all because for females we can just tie it all back, which is great.
Yeah.
So if
it is interesting. This, I mean, again, the power you've got today to do this is something that you wouldn't have had 2-3 years ago, let alone 5-10 years ago.
Yeah. So I renamed my little community, which was like subscribe to Esther Marie or what have you. I called it the VIP community. I added the word community in there. I've just put it on the screen. If anybody wants to join it, then basically I just send out little offers and free things that I'm doing, brow workshops, just little things like that, just to keep up to date when I'm bringing out new products. So I think like you've done with your radio is to ask people what they want and then do it. Whereas years ago, we used to do it and say, here it is. So I think I've got some lovely clients, and you'll know who you are out there, and basically I'll send or show you things before I've even made or presented or written the course and say, what do you think? And then they just give me really good feedback. And when you work on your own, sometimes it's good to have that back, isn't it?
Oh yeah, you need that. And that's what's happened with media, particularly radio now. It's all centralised from London right across the country. All the groups do it. And they go, there's 400 songs. We're going to play them day in, day out, because they're the 400 songs that you like. We're telling you that you like them. and that's what you're going to get. Whereas we've tweaked it as, you know, somebody said that we weren't playing enough older songs, so we put an extra older song in each of the hour to cover that. So, and some people mentioned there was not enough rock music, so we've increased that, and that's what it's all about. Gone are the days, because people can just switch in anything now from one brand to another at the flick of a switch. You've got to do that. Especially in what we're doing, because you've got Spotify, Amazon Music, and you've got all those other outlets. So you've got to have that thing to keep them there. If you're just going to talk at them and play at them what you want, what you think they like, it's not what it's about. But again, what comes into it there is with the bigger groups is that all they're concerned is with selling advertising space to national brands. So that's the sole purpose of what they do, nothing else.
Totally. Yeah, unfortunately, it's the word of influencers as well. There's so much out there in my industry. Now, legally, people have to put that they are promoting a product and they're earning money out of it. But you've got all these subscription codes where people are sitting there going, this is a great moisturizer, this is this, this is that. It's because they've been sent a pot of it and they get a subscription, not a subscription code, somebody will put it on here, I can't remember what it is, but they're getting payback on it, and you're just like thinking to yourself, oh, do you know what, is that really genuine? Are they really interested in that brand, or is it the fact that they're getting money out of it?
Well, don't they have to disclose now that they're
they do, yeah. It says this is a paid promotion, but all of those YouTube videos that we've watched for years, how to do this, how to do that, you're thinking, oh, this is really informative. Then they'll put, oh, this is where I got this from, and this is where I got that from. They're actually earning out of those links. That's how they make the money. And you've got YouTubers now, I wish I was one, they're like millionaires. And you think,
they had an awards, didn't they?
Money on YouTube.
I know there's like an influencer award ceremony that took place.
There was one out in Monaco.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, earning millions.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's like the best one, Monaco. I mean, like, they realised, and Monaco hosted it because they knew that these were the influencers, because Monaco wanted to promote themselves, and they knew that everybody would be like, picture, 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 picture. Look at me, I'm out in Monaco. So
yeah.
Way the world ticks now, I'm afraid.
Sadly.
So if I left you with, if you could dig deep and think of one reason to today pick up the phone to somebody to say hello, what do you think they could say?
What they could say?
Yeah, what subject would they talk about?
It's like I said earlier, it's not so much about what you could say to them, it's what they can say to you, and listening to them and hearing them. I think it's making that call to whoever, but then listening to what they've got to say, because it's all right you talking to them, it might be but they might not have spoken to anyone to tell anyone anything for 10 days, 2 weeks, a month. You don't know.
And I've done things in the past where I've asked somebody for a little bit of help about something. To be honest with you, I could have worked out myself, but it's that kind of like, oh, my hob doesn't work, I know, I'll ring. And you pick the phone up and go, have you got any idea why my hob wouldn't be working? And it's just nice to provoke a conversation, because that person immediately will go, oh, I don't know, but have you tried doing this and have you tried doing that? I think people sometimes like to feel like they've got value and they've got worth. So maybe if you ask them a question, or don't think that you've got to help others, maybe they could help you in some other way as well.
But then again, that's them talking to you, isn't it? Yeah. And it's getting them to do that. It's all right, ringing people up and saying, oh, how are you? And they go, oh, I'm okay. Well, the weather's not very good, because if you're not careful, suddenly they're a bit down anyway. You talked about the weather. Oh, it's drab. It's raining for about 15 pounds. Suddenly they put the phone down and they feel worse than they did before you phoned.
The art of conversation. It's definitely an art, isn't it?
Yeah, but as I say, hearing and there's a difference between hearing and listening as well.
So
hear people.
Yeah, your link's on here, which will stay on here. I'm going to end it. If you're watching this on catch up or anything afterwards, give us a love and a like and let us know that you've watched it. It'd be absolutely lovely. Apparently the professional way is you write the word #replay.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, apparently that says somebody's watching it after they've watched it go live. But this is going out on to 3 places. So although it doesn't look like there's a lot of activity, there is when it all adds up. Your link's on there. So they'll go onto your Facebook page, and from your Facebook page, they can get the link to the radio station.
I can, yeah. And again, that's interesting as well. Anyone wants to email any comments through that once they've heard it, perhaps they.
What about requests?
As I say, from the middle of May, we'll be able to do that.
Right. And then you're going to have a regular slot that you're going to go on the radio.
Yeah, it'll be a couple of, probably about 4 of us that are former Ashbourne Radio people that'll be on there.
Well, hey. Right then, we'll stay on here. So don't disappear, John. I'm just going to stop it. Say wave goodbye to everyone. Bye.